This is Jonas Krieger with senshi-knives. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this big Karambit variation completely from my point of view. This video is the cut version where I will explain everything I did and show parts of it. On my channel you can find another version of this video where I show the whole process uncut in a 5.5 hour video. But now let's start with this profile that I'll transfer with the help of black spray paint and cut out using an angle grinder from a piece of 5mm thick N690 steel. This steel has been my favorite for knives like this due to its high carbon content of 1.07% that leads to a high hardness around 61 HRC, while the added vanadium and molybdenum lead to a very high toughness, which means the blade is not as susceptible to breaking under stress. While there are harder and more tough steels out there, this is one of them that is stainless at the same time and does not break the bank. It is also hardenable in oil and does not require quenching between two expensive aluminum plates like comparable steels. While I gave you a brief introduction into metallurgy, I started to refine the rough shape on the belt sander. Here I'm using the flat plate in vertical mode on the table to grind in the round shape of the ring, as well as most of the rest of the handle. For the back of the blade, I put the flat plate in horizontal mode to achieve a consistent round shape. For the recurved side, I use the guiding wheels on the side of the flat plate. For the finger divots, I get my small wheel attachment to achieve a nice consistent radius again. With the outside profile done, I get to drill out the ring. This is done with a carbide hole saw and is done rather quickly. While on the topic of drilling, I also complete the pinholes after determining their positions.
There.
This knife would be ready for heat treat right now, but with a steel this thick, I like to take off a bit of material on the cutting edge to ensure a quicker cool down during the quenching that ensures a hard edge. On the topic of quenching, I start that by preheating the oil with a piece of flat bar. This is needed to lower the oil's viscosity, which speeds up the cool down during quenching. To heat the steel to the required temperature of 1050 degrees Celsius, I use my self-built electric kiln. After reaching the temperature, I hold it for 15 minutes before quenching the knife in the preheated oil.
Very looks cool.
The scathing file on the steel shows me the quench was successful. But to complete the heat treat, the blade has to be tempered to release build-up stress and make the blade tougher. This is done at 150 degrees Celsius for 2 hours. After that, the heat treat is finished and the next problem arises. The blade has picked up a slight warp. This is fixed by putting the blade in an overbend position and heating it to just under 150 degrees Celsius to not break the temper but make the steel a bit malleable to straighten it out. It still has a bit of a warp, but I can grind that out. This is done by marking out a straight center line to which I will grind the blade. This grind is then started by establishing the center line on the cutting edge with a very aggressive angle, before thinning down the spine with a similar aggressive angle to establish lines with a distal taper. Then I only have to connect those lines with flat bevels. This is started by removing most of the material on the guiding wheels. This is a lot faster than using the flat plate for this, as a round grinding surface is much more aggressive in this. With a slightly used belt, I flatten the bevels and nudge them ever so closely to the guiding lines. The last bit is done with a fresh ceramic belt, as it leaves me with a very flat surface without any facets. This surface finish is refined with a trisect gator belt to a 300 grit finish, with parallel scratches expanding to the ring as well. I round over the spine, polish and smooth out the ring and etch in my maker's mark electrochemically. To finish out the metalwork, I use a Scotch-Brite belt to smooth out the finish to leave me with a beautiful satin finish. This is subsequently hidden very fast to protect it during the handle making process. For that, I take this stunning piece of curly black walnut, drill the 2 pinholes in, from where I can transfer the profile to the handle. This profile is then established on the belt sander. This process is always quite satisfying due to how the wood seems to melt into the belt. A video of this process is actually by far the most watched video on this channel ever, although it took me only about 10 minutes to make. Sometimes keeping it simple seems to be king here. For security reasons, I magically cut it in half before gluing it on a G10 liner. With the holes and profile re-established, it is time to glue up the handle. After test fitting everything, I clean off any residue from the parts, mix the 2K epoxy very thoroughly and then proceed to assemble the handle. This epoxy will be set in about 5 minutes and is hardened after 30 more minutes. With a lot of pressure, any extra epoxy is pushed out of the cracks and wiped off with a solvent-soaked paper towel. After which I take the knife again to the belt sander and remove any excess wood that extends over the metal tang. The excess parts of the pins are removed by the belt sander as well, and the thickness of the two handle scales adjusted the same way. Now the handle's maximum dimensions are determined and I can proceed with sculpting the handle from here. I flat down both ends of the scales and round over all the edges for a nice fit to the hand. This rough shape is refined by hand with 40 grit sandpaper and then finished with up to 400 grit. As this kind of knife will be exposed to all kinds of dirt, water and other unpleasantries, I want to protect the wood and make it pop a bit more. For this, I'm using this true oil finish that is applied in layers, and in between applying each layer, I have to sand the complete handle down with 1000 grit sandpaper. With that done, all that is needed to finish this knife is sharpening it. So then, we can take a look at the final result. Well, if you like this kind of narrated POV style video, please let me know by liking the video and or leaving a comment in the comment section down below. You can do that later as well if you have any further questions. I'll be happy to answer them. I also want to hint towards the full uncut version of this knife making journey, if you ever have 6 hours to kill. And with that, as always, have a nice one. Bye.